Hey, it's Guy here, and you're watching Off My Bridge, and today we are taking what was generated using the Star Trek Adventures 2 Exploration Guide from Modiphius, which has just come out and should be available for ordering soon. Keep watching their website for details. We're going to be taking that system that they have of generating an entire sector and the solar systems within that sector, and we're going to turn it into a campaign. I think it's pretty powerful for doing it. I said it in the review video, which if you haven't watched, go check it out. This is your gateway to just creating amazing content. Now, I have gone ahead and generated the solar system, and using dungeonfog.com, I have actually got an image of it. I like to plot these things out, and the exploration guide actually comes with a way of plotting out the coordinates of exactly where the systems are in relation to each other within a sector, which is really cool. And it looks something like this. So here you can see the Nuch rover sector. And I came up with the name basically because it's a phrase that's in my head and I cannot remember where it comes from. I'm sure I've heard it somewhere. Anyway, Nuch rover is a sector in the Delta Quadrant. According to the rolling that I did, according to the system, it's in the Delta Quadrant and it has 7 systems, which I've labeled NR 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 so far. And on a grid of 20 by 20, as you can see there, the systems are laid out. Now, these are not planets, these are stars. And each of the stars has a series of planets around it. I then went and generated all of those planets using the system, and that gives us this kind of very clunky looking shorthand, which is useful if you are GMing this game. The PCs arrive and they want to go and explore. They can go to NR5 with its 10 planets, NR2 with its 8 planets, NR3, 6, and so on. And all of the information is there. Now, this was all generated with the exploration guide. And we can see that NR2, for example, has an M-class planet, the 4th planet in the system, which has got jungles, forests, and swamps. Now, this is something that I deviated slightly from in terms of the exploration guide. Instead of having a monobiome, I decided that each of my planets would each have 3 biomes: an equatorial biome, a tropic biome, and then the polar biomes. Because it just made it a little bit more interesting, I felt, and gave me more options, because each of those biomes, if you recall, comes with a whole series of adventure prompts and things, and so that made it really flexible. So I generated these systems. So NR2, with its M-class planet, has got jungles, forests, and swamps. NR5 has got deserts, plains, and caves, which is quite nice. Now, NR5 had a lot of glacial planets, polar tundra, cold deserts, just lots of frozen planets. And that kind of got me thinking, how do I make a campaign out of this space? And NR2 has got swamps, lots of wet, muddy kind of stuff, and then some glacial planets too, but mainly swampy kind of stuff. So if we look at NR2 versus NR5, NR2 is on the same kind of space, is in the same space as NR5, so they're not too far apart, but they are separate. And if you think about the distances between these stars, if you think about our own solar system, how far away Alpha Centauri is or beyond, and you're going, yes, okay. So it is actually quite far. And there's a binary star NR1 in between these two, NR6 is arguably between the two. So there is some interesting space going on, and arguably these two systems could have evolved completely separate intelligent species without either of them knowing about it, until they'd both achieved some kind of interstellar flight capabilities, launching probes and so on. Now, our own probes have only just got to the edge of our solar system, and it's taken, 50 years to get there? So lots of time can transpire. And even if they did send out probes, the probes would get from NR5 or NR2 to NR1 first, if that. So they'd get to the NR1, which, if we look at the chart, NR1 has got 2 planets, a lava and poison gas atmosphere, and an asteroid belt. That's about it. But they do have rich minerals. So perhaps either of the 2 other species decide maybe we should head to NR1 to start exploiting it and that sort of thing. These are the stories that run through my head as I am looking at this information. I then go, okay, well, if NR5 and NR2 are in the same sector, they're evolving at the same time, but one is more water-based, one is more frozen cold-based. Frozen cold environments are difficult to grow in. Plants don't grow. You have to have a completely different mentality. The aliens that are growing on these frozen planets have got antifreeze for their circulatory system. If you are going to be mobile, if you're going to be moving around, you need to move oxygen or something, some kind of fuel for your cells to use. That needs a circulatory system. Perhaps, I mean, this is it right now. With Star Trek, bipedal existence requires a lot of moving parts. Antifreeze for blood is one of them. Okay, cool. The other species, it's jungles, forests, and swamps. So we know there's standard kind of plant life, that kind of stuff. So they can be much more bipedal in nature and more, good old-fashioned warm-blooded species. So that does create an interesting space. Our frozen species, I think Star Trek has said the Breen live on very cold worlds. With that in mind, I thought about, okay, what if there's a war going on between these two species for resources? They're looking for resources, they're trying to expand and that sort of thing. But how do we get the PCs involved? Well, that came from NR6, a Type O star that I just happened to roll. It has gravity waves, level 4 gravity waves. Very powerful, very dangerous gravity waves, which do something. And this sector is in the Delta Quadrant. It's in the Delta Quadrant, so it's far away from Alpha and Beta quadrants. Gravity waves. What if this Type O star has 3 siblings, one in each of the quadrants, and that these stars that are emitting these strange gravity waves, they're emitting them at different frequencies, so different times. However, at one point, all 4 of them will emit a gravity pulse at the same time. And when that happens, a tunnel is formed, a distortion of space-time and subspace that links these stars together. And anything in orbit of the star is sucked through this tunnel. And so that's how the adventure begins. The PC's ship is sucked through this gravity tunnel and deposited at NR6 in the Delta Quadrant, and in the middle of this brewing war that's about to take place. The gravity tunnel will collapse and won't reform until the stars pulse at the same time again if they get back into sync, which is 3 weeks. It's an interesting time period because it's not a full month, but it's enough time for a lot of cool stuff to go down. Armed with that, my campaign was ready to go. It practically writes itself if you think about it. And so that's what I decided to do. Rather than to write out an entire campaign, which could take hundreds of pages and also take away agency from you guys, I decided the best thing to do would be to write out adventure inspirations, give you some notes and some thoughts on how those could then be expanded, and then leave it up to you. You know your players, you know what they like, you know what you like as well, and it's a good chance for you to flex your muscles as a GM. And so this is what it looks like. So here's the introductory passage. The star flares up as predicted. This flare-up, the 5th for today, is unusually bright. Without warning, the ship is pulled into a twisting spiral of colors. Sensors indicate the ship is in subspace, deep in subspace, and moving incredibly fast. After what feels like hours, the ship slows down and rolls to a stop. The stars are wrong. Galactic center is now only 40 light-years away, and it seems whatever brought you here has collapsed, leaving behind an area of intense tachyon activity. What happened? And here is the beginning of the campaign, the Nutch Rover sector, and the campaign that is therein. There is some initial rolling which can happen. Hopefully, your science officers, your captains, whoever is playing them, will do a whole bunch of scans to figure out just what the hell happened. And so I've listed them there: reason and science, daring and con, control engineering, insight and command, all those kind of things. So that they can figure out that they can just wait 3 weeks and then they can head home. Or They could use some intense tachyon disruption, something along those lines, to collapse the tunnels permanently, or to perhaps open an artificial one, but they'll need more power than their ship can generate. So that's all there. And then we start with the actual campaign. So what I have done is I have established these two species, the Ymir Alliance and the Kall Sojan. And the Ymir Alliance are the frozen, antifreeze, weird alien-type species, and the Kall Sojan are the more traditional. The Ymir are expanding, and they are trying to claim new territory, and the Kall Sojan are trying to stop them from doing this. Although the Ymir claim that the Kall Sojan are interlopers and should never have been here in the first place. So that's what the PCs stumble into, but their first contact is with an Ymir Alliance ship, which says, you have entered our space illegally, you will wait here, and in 3 weeks you will return. Do not leave this space. Because that's how they would react. And it makes it kind of interesting, especially when you tell the PCs, do not do this, they're kind of inclined to want to do it. So then, to make sure that they are more inclined to get involved, we then have this invasion of the PC's ship. The Kall Sojan have a strike force, which then go onto the PC ship and try and find technology to help them win this war against the Ymir. Now, this is how the adventures are written. They're just written as little paragraph entries. So Adventure 1, Technological Advantage. Adventure 2, Psychic Probe. Adventure 3, Cry for Help. Adventure 4, Aftermath of Victory. Adventure 5, Doomsday. Adventure 6, 1 Minute to Midnight. Adventure 7, Whose Peace. Adventure 8, 1 Week Later. Adventure 9, Monument to Forgotten Friends, and Adventure 10, The Dark Side of Peace. So those are the adventure inspirations. And then you take any one of these and you apply the adventure types to it, which is what I've written out here. Thwarting, delivering, discovering, collecting, uncovering, investigation. However you want to play it out, I've given a little bit of a write-up, in case you don't remember what they are, as to how to apply them to the adventure. And then there's an example of how you actually apply it to the adventure. So I chose adventure number 4 and broke that down into several different adventure types. So you can see just how radically the adventure plays out. Then you apply the 5-step method to it, and everything is done for you, basically. All you have to do is fill in the blanks. And all that you have to remember is that there are these two species who are fighting over resources, and both sides desperately want to win. There is a solution that can be found. The PCs need to kind of come together and get these two to agree to work together, to cooperate, and that sort of thing. And that's it. I know it sounds very simple and very straightforward, but I think that if you can take this and you can actually apply what you know, your own twist and take on it, it will be a truly cool little campaign that you can drop into any game because they're pulled to the Delta Quadrant and then they can go back relatively easily. The chance of them going back is never at risk. Unless you really want to ratchet up the tension, but it isn't something that's at question. They just have to wait 3 weeks. So they could just wait 3 weeks and do nothing, or they could get involved. That's up to your players and to you as to how you want to drive that. Anyway, that is how I took the exploration guide and created, just a 10 adventure campaign out of it. And that's just following through some logical questions. I hope this has inspired you to come up with your own ideas and to go forward with looking at how the different adventure types, how the 5-step method helps in making your adventures super, super easy to run. Next week, we are looking to the prophets for guidance.